All right, are we ready to get started? I think we have pretty much everybody. Is anyone new since the first training? No? Good, okay. This is the website where the slideshow is, so you can refer back to it if you want to. Today we're going to talk about AAC implementation. We already did an intro and the set process. Last week was AAC apps. We dove a little bit into that. Now we're going to do a little bit of implementation, and then next week is devices besides iPads and apps. So that's kind of the culmination of the 4 weeks. I hope we can then put it all together for you, just kind of a refresher, but you have the links to all four, you will, to all 4 weeks, so you can go back and refresh your memory. And Chris and I were just talking a little bit. Tammy and I are trying to do a new thing this year, virtual office hours, so that we can meet with you still face-to-face, but virtually through what's called a Zoom room. How many of you have done a Zoom room before? A few. So it's literally you sit in front of your computer, I sit in front of mine, but we can see each other and we can talk to each other. And I can show you stuff and you can show me stuff, and I can share my screen with you and you can share your screen with me if you want to. It's still like by appointment, but we will likely, in place of this on Friday afternoons, have virtual office hours too. So if we open our virtual office, you can kind of sign in. You can click on our link, which is in my email. It's my email signature. So if I sign into that, my virtual office, I'm in there, you can just come in. And then if I'm meeting with somebody else and you don't want to, if it's a private thing you need to, we can kind of meet privately at a certain time, okay?
As well as the open house are designated Friday afternoons from this exact time in the Atrc. It's open, so you can drop in and let me know what your needs are. If you need a different time for virtual hours, I do have a little more leadway than Julie does, so we can set up a designated time, which I have with many of you already. But the flyer is on the side, and I will make sure I get that flyer out to your supervisors so they can be sending that out to everyone in EI so that they have that awareness as well.
And the flyer is the dates of your Friday open
Correct.
houses. Okay, because We're not open every Friday just because we're not in next Friday at all, so there's weeks that we're not in the building, so we don't have them then. But so if you have any questions, have any concerns, need to troubleshoot, we expect that from you. We don't expect you to know everything after these 4 weeks. We expect you to know enough that you can hold a set meeting, ask us some questions about maybe what to try, tell us a little bit about a kid and say, what would you try with this one? But we do expect you to be able to hold a set meeting, come up with an action plan, even if it's not the be-all and end-all of all action plans, you at least have something in place. If one of those steps on the action plan is to research or find out about something before you put something in place, that can be an action plan item. Consult with AT to determine app, then put the rest of the action plan in place. That can be an action plan item if you need more information. So you don't have to know all the answers up front. You just kind of have to have a plan moving forward as far as assistive technology goes with your kids, okay? And whether it's high, low, or no tech.
And as you're uploading your set paperwork, I will be, doing a spot check. I'm not going to be able to check every single one, but and then give you a few pointers so that you, if there's some ideas that I have for you, I'll be just emailing you back personally so that you know some suggestions, some wording to really benefit your own learning through that process for you and the team.
I think it gets better. The more you do it, the better you get, and it's still never perfect. So, as long as there's a plan in place, that's what matters, and the whole team is on the same page, okay? An action plan should not say, do a trial of per low quota go. That's way too broad, okay? You're going to customize it, you're going to model it for the student. What are you going to do in that trial? What data are you going to collect on it? So you do need to, step-by-step it out. You can't just say do a trial of. But it doesn't have to be, so-and-so is going to program people, and this person's going to program this, and it doesn't have to be that detailed, but it does need to be somewhat detailed. Okay? Any questions about that before we move in? Okay. Now it's like, what does this look like in my classroom in practice? Now that we've had the SAT meeting, now that I have this device and we've customized it already, now what do we do? how many people feel somewhat awkward around AAC devices? It is okay if you do, because it depends. Even with new things, even when new apps come out, it's totally awkward. You're not used to it. It's different language, and it's arranged differently. The more you have your hands on it, the easier it gets. Talk with it. Talk with it. Talk with it. But don't be afraid of it. You're not going to wreck it. If you wreck it, there's a backup. So you can start over again, and there's ways to back it up. If you have spent hours customizing something, do make sure you know that it is backing up or it's backed up somewhere, because you don't want to redo that at any point, okay? I say that, depending on the app, there's different backup strategies. How do you think I find out how to do it? Google it, okay? Prolo Quota Go backup. And I usually do Prolo Quota Go backup video. I want to watch a video. Show me how to do it. There is a backup video on how to do it. There's about 6 ways to do it, so you can choose your favorite way. It doesn't matter, as long as there's a backup somewhere, so you don't have to redo the work you spent hours doing. So, as you get familiar with the devices and the apps, it doesn't take hours. Now, the first time if it takes 2 hours, the second time it takes the same amount of work, takes 1 hour. And then the third time you do it, it takes 45 minutes. It just gets faster. You get better at it. It gets easier. And if you transfer over to a different app, it's not as hard to learn that one because you've already learned one. And they basically work the same way when you're updating and customizing. Backing up sometimes works differently, but again, touch chat backup video. How do I do it? Or touch chat backup instructions. You can Google that and you can get some instructions on how to do that. It's also likely that if you go to the publisher's or the developer's website for backup instructions, it's likely to be the most recent backup. So sometimes when you Google it, you might get older information. When you Google something, you can put in a date range, like when, in the last year, where's the backup video for that? Because sometimes I'll get really ancient backup videos for Prolo Quota Go. So we want the newest. Okay, so implementation. What does it look like? Well, what do you see in this picture? Modeling. Why do we think this is modeling?
Because she is interacting with the iPad as well.
Yeah, her hands are on it too. So there's definite interaction with the device happening here and here and here. So this is classroom settings, preschool settings. So adorable. Oh my God, so cute. But do you see there's a talker here and a talker here and there's a talker here. So she's modeling, and they have it. They're all working. Yeah, hello. They're all working together on the same talker. So, but everybody's actively engaged, all at once, talking about whatever it is they're talking about. So I assume that they're talking about whatever this is back here. They're having a place, time, and they're all talking about it. So, yeah. So that's what it looks like. Hands-on devices, hands-on devices. I love this one. So it's teacher. This is all no tech, low tech. They all have communication boards. Looks like there's some core. Looks like have you seen the core with the little fringe at the top, the little flip and talk at the top that has colors and people and things like that? That looks like what they have here. I'm a fan, personally, of the low tech version too. She has a big version here. So it appears that they all have something similar. Do they all have to have the same app or all have to have the same boards? Definitely not. They just need to see you talking in augmented communication, and they do. So it doesn't matter if you have a different app that you're using. You just need to know what they're using too. So it helps you to know to use the same thing. But they do not all have to have the same devices or the same tech solutions at all. There's reasons for kids having different ones. But what I like about it is so she has one in front of her, or is there a kid in front of her? I can't really tell. But she has a big version here, and then she has visual strategies up on the left. Okay, so lots of visuals going on in this classroom, and this is not the activity. Like their communication books are not the activity. They're talking about whatever's sitting in front of her on the floor. Do you see what I mean? So the activity is there, and they're talking about it using their AAC. Okay. All right, so there's a little video.
To encourage a child to use his AAC device in the classroom, make sure all adults in the room of using the device when they talk to the child. Do you want to go? Good. Find out more at speechandlanguagekids.com/classroom-AAC.
Okay, so everybody in the classroom, paras, you,
Welcome to the
parents who help, anybody who's in your classroom who's working with those kids should have their hands on the devices, okay, and should be working with it, even if they only say go in that session. If that's what you're, if you're doing a lesson and then it's time to go somewhere and you use just go, that's one more than they used yesterday. So, hands on the device, don't be shy. Also, almost every app has a search feature. So if you're looking for a word, you don't have to flounder as much. Yes, you're going to flounder a little bit, but you can go into that search feature, find the button, and figure out where it is so that you can show the kid. Or just so you can model using the device. You don't have to teach them how to use the search feature, but some of those kids are really good at it. Some of those kids who are early spellers can look up their own words too, which is kind of cool. So you're at least exposing them to some of that. And don't feel like because you don't know where it is that you have to hide and figure it out first. You can do that in front of the kid. You can look it up in front of the kid and say, hey, we're going to find it together. It's okay for it to be awkward. Just still dive in and do it. Yes, it's awkward. I get it. But not for long. It's really not for long if you have your hands on it regularly. All right, so a couple of the examples I wanted to use are people just modeling. Do you have to model the big core board? No, but is a teacher modeling using augmentative communication in her class? And I like this method because she has it up there all the time. It's her big bulletin board in the front of the room where they gather, and no matter what they're doing, she's talking to them while she's doing it.
Today is going to be a good day. We got something, but we do not know what's in it.
What do you think one of her target words of the day is? No, maybe not target word of the day, but what's a word that they're working on, do you think? What, right? What, in a question form and telling about something. Guess what we got? It's a what. So she went back to it a couple of times. That's why I'm thinking that.
What do we have? What did we get? What should I do with that? I should break it open. I should break it open. You think I should open it? And should I take out whatever is inside?
So is she modeling every single word? No. Keywords. The keywords. Okay? And they're key core words, which is great. But what about break? I should break it open. Is it a literal picture of that? You probably can't see it, but it's a break table, like break time. It's vending machines and a table where the kids are sitting at. That's the symbol for break in the symbol set. So it doesn't matter. She modeled it, and if you want to say it, oh, I should break it open, you just point to it, say break it open. You can use that word. And then she used the word open as well. So, yeah. Any other comments about this so far? Questions about how she's doing that? If any of you need and didn't get when you got your smart board, how many of you have a smart board in your classroom? So that pointer that she's using, we have some of those in the lending library. We have some in a bag. I think there's about 20 of them. So if you need one, let us know. We can give you one. But it's like a little fat hand pointing. So it's really cute if you don't already have one. But you can model that way. But I love that she's picking out all the key words. And it's not really interrupting her lesson. Right? She's just modeling the language that goes with the lesson. So what do we have? But she still has the thing in her hand. What is in here? And it's like a little dance almost. Every once in a while when I would be doing a therapy group and I have like switches and devices and I'm modeling with my pictures and things like that, I felt like I needed 8 arms to do it. Anybody ever feel that way? And twice I got to the point where I would wear like a Velcro vest thing and put some symbols on me so I could just do that and have my hands free. So you could do that too. We actually have Velcro receptive fabric if you did want to do that, you can make yourself a little apron or a little vest out of it. We have enough of it that if you wanted to do that, we could do that. It helps tremendously if you're just modeling a few pictures and you have a couple core words that you're working on, you could have it right on you, and then you have your hands free. But it's just a way to give them exposure to the symbols and to using symbols for language. So, all right, let me finish that.
You want to listen? Listen up. Okay.
Is there another word she could have modeled during that part? Hear, like what do you hear? Listen, things like that. Do you have to? No, you can, though. If hear was up there and she wanted to have them listen to it, or I hear it, you could have said that too. So, okay. So that's actively modeling the use of AAC while you're doing an activity. All right, and this girl has a really nice way to introduce a big core board again. So I definitely wanted to listen to her too. Oops, haven't I? All right, well, maybe not. Bear with me a sec. And turn that into a link.
Hey guys, we hope that many of you have made the big core. And today we just wanted to talk to you about some of the tips that we learned for using big core along the way to make the transition from one to the other.
So one of the places we like to start with big core is in play or in snack time. It's not as structured. It seems like an easy place to start using the words. Everybody feels a little bit more comfortable with it. And the kids are engaged. You're not working so hard to pull things out of it.
What else did she incorporate into this using the big core?
Stacks of Velcro so that they can use the sentence structure.
Yeah. And I'm thinking with the sentence strip at the top, what else does she have the little guy do when he's using it? There's a little bit of motor going in there too. He's like up on a step and reaching up, and so if you have, it's just something else, but it's just another way to do it. I have a feeling her sentence strip is up there so the kids can really see when she's modeling it. I was kind of surprised when she had him do it, and he's up there and really high. But it's similar to your smartboard. When they're up to the top of the smartboard, if they are pointing up there, it's the same kind of idea. But it kind of puts a little bit of motor in with the communication. So I thought that was kind of neat that they did that.
Here you go.
So as teachers and learners, we do get comfortable with using certain words, and we know where they're located on the board. So use this to your advantage. For example, if you want to do a phrase like I get, while I'm reaching for I, my eyes are going to be scanning where get is. So then it looks a lot more fluid. I'm not just focused on I and then panicking where I'm going to find the next word.
Another thing we learned is that you don't always have to pull all of your core up to the top when you're talking. Sometimes you just want to model it and get it out there and only pull up very specific things maybe that you're focusing in on. But it's really important that as you say the words, you can tell what you're doing. And it helps you figure out where things are, and it helps them make connections to where things are on locations, and even words that they're not as familiar with, you're seeing it modeled for them. It is also important, though, to pull those other ones up there occasionally and to work just like a device where you say it as you pull up and then say it again after it's all assembled.
Another tip we have is about fringe. When you have your big core, it's not necessary that you make a whole bunch of big fringe. A lot of the fringe we use are pictures right from our book or the actual objects. This kind of keeps you from getting too much of those nouns and those words that our kids need to flex to and helping them focus more on the language. One of our biggest challenges that we had when moving to the big core was motor planning. The spacing between devices and our static boards and then the big core, it's all a little bit of different motor planning. And as teachers, we kind of struggle with that. And your students will too. So just be patient with yourself, practice, choose activities that you don't need a ton of lesson planning so that you can kind of play with the big core as well as the kids can.
Do you hear that part? Choose activities that don't require a ton of planning, ahead of time so that maybe you can incorporate more language. How many of you have kids with devices that have touch chat on them? Oh, none. How about Core to Go? Okay. How about another app? No, just Joanne, what do you have? Speak for yourself. What else? Lamp? Go Talk? Okay, so if one of those devices has a core page, do you need to use this one? No, you can take that core language page from Core to Go, blow that one up really big, and then use that. Okay, you can do a screenshot, you can have it printed out. Kathy can print it out here if it's big, like 11 by 17, I think is as big as she goes. But you can do it in sections, or you can enlarge it on the copier, the color copier, and use those symbols instead of these symbols, and lay it out the way it is on the core board that they have. So, just a thought. But it's good to model the language, especially if you have access to the language that they have with the layout they have. That even helps even more. Okay.
We hope some of these tips have helped you for getting started with your big core. If you're just getting started and you come up with some great stuff on your own, please feel free to add it below. We'd love to hear from you. And hopefully you'll be seeing some more tips from us soon.
Okay. So I thought it was helpful to have some of these examples because, again, it's really hard to even know sometimes where to start or what it looks like. So that's what teaching with technology looks like. They could have easily, instead of using the big core board, had a talker in front of them and we're using it to talk to the kids. And then the kids use theirs to talk to them. Okay, speak their language. All right, so I'm going to have you play around a little bit. First of all, how many of you have right now access to an AAC app on an iPad, on your phone, or something else? Raise your hand really high if you already have it. Okay, if you don't, even if you do, I want everybody to go on your phone or your iPad and download SonarFlex Lite. It's free. It's my favorite free app. If you already have AAC apps on your iPad, do it on your phone. Have an AAC app on your phone. That's where I have SonarFlex Lite. Going to take a little bit of time to download that. We're going to do a few things with that, and then we're going to start planning for your own caseloading, actually get some things done while you're here, so it's not just all theoretical. If you have any trouble getting into the App Store or remembering your password or anything like that, password-wise, your neighbor should be able to help you figure yours out because they're all pretty much very similar. Yeah, so you should be able to download SonarFlex Lite.
Oh, it might not be. This is. Oh, wait. It took it took a while to look. Oh, it did? Okay.
Mine was doing that yesterday. What do you mean I can't get in the App Store? You could try to quit out of, like, totally quit out of the app and then go back in. Sometimes that helps. So I will say, don't use SonoFlex. Like, I don't have any kids on SonoFlex because there's other better apps that meet the same features. But as far as a free app goes, by far my favorite because it does the most. And anybody can have access to this free one. At the end of today, I'm going to show you some that you guys have access to because you're the SLPs here have access to because you're SLPs. They have a free SLP copy available to you. But SonoFlex Slate.
Yes, it may be your version.
Oh, it's too big for me to download on my phone.
Oh, good. What is wrong with you?
I don't know. This is our classroom.
Are you on the guest or are you on the regular?
I'm on gas.
I'm on the regular.
Okay. This is my teacher's iPad.
No, you're on the regular one.
Oh.
Yeah, that's weird. Let's do a reset. Because sometimes that cleans it up too. How many people were successful in downloading it? Okay, still working on it? All right. I know, it's not immediate, so. Can't get what? Our internet went. What are you doing? Stop it! Just stop it! So while people are downloading, if you want to look up front while you're waiting for things to download, what do you notice about this? What are some of the features you notice? It has, say it again, it has a keyboard, yeah. So access to conversation language literacy. Do we have access to literacy? Yes, through the keyboard up there. So there's the keyboard. What do we notice about their keyboard? ABC order. You could probably change that in settings. I'm not sure about that, but all right. What else do we notice? What do they have? Color coded. Yes. Is that a deal breaker? No, but it's actually really nice to have, and it does follow the Fitzgerald key generally. So yes. What else? Do we have access to language and generative language? Can you generate? Do you have access to core?
Conversation is quick phrases.
There's quick phrases at the top. Yep. So we have access to conversation. Yay. There's the phrases. And you can scroll. So there's pages of phrases. Okay. So we have quick phrases, we have keyboard, we have home. And on the home, we have two sections of it. Well, actually, kind of three sections. The top section is what? Up here is core words, right? Down here is generally parts of speech, categories by parts of speech, and other categories. And then on the right are their context or their activity based. So you have access to language because you have access to core, conversation, quick phrases, and literacy, the keyboard. So what else do we notice about it? Good, bad, or indifferent? Anything else? I like that there's a message bar so you can see, what you've created. Couple of things to know about SonoFlex, and the reason that I don't really use it that much is what you see is what you get picture size wise. So if that doesn't work for you, you can't add more or less. You also have to scroll to get where you're going. So some kids can't do that or can't wrap their heads around that. So you have no idea of how much there is available to you in that category because you have to scroll till you get to the end. When you customize it and you give it a part of speech, it just dumps it in the middle somewhere. You can't reorder the picture. So that's, to me, a deal breaker. the limitations to SonarFlex Lite versus full version of SonarFlex, you can only add 8, I think it's 8, I don't know if it's 8 things, 8 icons, or 8 activities, but you're limited in the amount you can add to the free version. And you have to hit the space bar for it to talk, unless you're in quick phrases. Quick phrases talk on their own when you touch them. Otherwise, you assemble it and then hit the space or the sentence bar at the top. So I ran into a team who was using this with a kid, and they got him to learn how to hit the space bar or the sentence bar every time he did a word. So it was not a deal breaker. It was like a motor plan he just had in place. So he would go, I, and hit it, so it would say it, want, and hit it to make sure he got the same word. I'm like, all right, that was creative of you. So they were able to use the free version, and most of it met his needs, so it was fine. So does it have a decent amount of information available to you that you could get by on it? You yourselves, if you lost your voice today and it was on your phone, could you get by with it? Yep. Yep, it has a lot. And remember, you can add a few things to it, so to the free version. All right, so if you go out of SonarFlex Lite and into settings on your iPad, they have settings you can change for SonarFlex Lite. So on the left side, scroll all the way down to find SonarFlex Lite in your list of apps. And you'll be able to see your choices on the right-hand side that you can use in SonarFlex Lite. So you can choose your voice out of 5. So you have boy, girl, man, woman, 2 women. Okay? Choose your voice. You can have the sentence bar clear after you speak. These are all yes, no, maybes. Your contexts. So it says, what's it say? Go back after word selection in. So if you select something on a sheet, it will go back to categories, not context. So categories is the first page with all of the core and all that, and context is just all the context listed. Get 20 new messages on next startup. I'm going to turn that on. I don't know what that is. Behavior speak message. Context best. Alternative homepage, turn that context-based layout on. That way you can switch between context and home in the homepage. And you can play around with settings. Just like every other app, there are settings that make it act the way it acts. So you can go in and play around with it. Now go back into the app. And on the top right where it says vocabulary, I can switch between that. It's a toggle. So I have context and I have the home page. Okay? Does that make sense? And let me show you SonarFlex, the full version. The context page of that. Oops, and now it's not going to let me because I didn't turn it on in settings. Hold on. All right, so if I turn context on, all right, fine. Yes, that's what I want. All right, so you can have primary categories on that first page and then secondary categories and I don't know why it's doing that, but here's all you have context-wise. So you can have all those little contexts, and it's a lot more than you get in the free version. But the free version is pretty good. So now, I want you to do a couple of things with it. And if you don't have it on your phone, couldn't load it or whatever, work with a neighbor. And I want you to add your picture and your name. And I want you to say 10 phrases using it. Just play around with it. Say 10 phrases. So I need a drink. I want to go. I'm going to show it to you on my phone, too, because it looks different on my phone. And if you want to talk, you have to hit that sentence button. So here's what it looks like on my phone. It's a little bit different, but I added my face under people. And if you tap and hold on an empty button, you can edit the button. So add your picture to it by tapping and holding on it under people. Scroll to the empty button, add your face, add your name.
And the lady scroll.
Oh, you're going right on here.
Oh, you have to go up
Yeah,
there.
right on that. Ew, my picture looks really creepy up there. It doesn't look that bad on my phone.
This is where we had it?
Mm-hmm. So just hold it, and then
And you want to say like, I want to go. Things your kids say. I need help.
Would that be my name?
Yep. So the message is what it says out loud. The label is what's on the button. Most of the time they're the same. Unless you have a whole sentence that you want to say hitting one button.
Get ready.
Were you guys able to get it?
Yeah, I'm creating myself.
Oh, good. Yes, you do. Yep. You can, when you take your picture, you can zoom in, zoom out, move that little rectangle around.
You can retake it. So retake us down in the lower left-hand corner.
Anyone need help adding themselves?
Okay. If you want to change it, you can tap it again. Yep. That's what it's going to say.
Like, hi, my name is Mal.
Yep.
Someone told me it's not great to put whole like messages on one button. The point is we're adding words.
It depends. I mean, some people do, some people don't.
If it's not talking, hit the button and then tap the sentence bar.
Message
I had
and
the same
then
problem. I had the same problem. I like couldn't figure it out.
Volume now?
because that's how we learn to
Make sure your
write, and
volume's
that's how we learn to speak.
That's my problem. That's how you want to do it.
Right.
So
I think it depends on the kid too.
it depends greatly on that student.
And your volume's all right?
Intensely on that student.
Go into your settings on your iPad. And sound. It's over top.
I'm trying to just update my app so that maybe it'll let me play.
Much different on the try than it is on the iPad. And pretty much all the devices are the same way. So iPad will go on my phone. It also goes on your watch.
It goes on your watch?
If, as long as it's on your
Yeah,
phone,
well, we're on clear app.
it then can connect into your phone. I can connect to my watch. But it's completely different interface. It's very
Oh, no, it isn't. I was going to say.
It was magic.
Yeah. We should have, but it's just here.
Oh, yeah, let's.
I know.
Okay, there you go.
I do that to myself. Why am I not here?
That took what, 4 heads to figure it out, right? To say what it's going to say. Is it working? Good.
I figured out my
What'd you do? And then was it the 2 lines?
I don't know. I just said deleted and like down and all that was really normal. And so I just copied that setting.
What you learned?
What I did.
I'm glad it worked. Okay, how are we doing? Everybody add yourself?
We saved the phrases.
All right, start saying some phrases with it. About 10 different things. The funnier, the better.
And then save it?
No.
No, just.
Nope, you don't have to save it. You're back and forth. You're sharing. Okay. Did it work, Karen? It doesn't work if you touch right on it.
Remember, especially in the context, you can scroll to the right to find other vocabulary in that context. Come on.
assist. So you can't have just a blank symbol. You need to either.
Can you just show me? Did this come up?
See if it.
What we do.
Oh, hello. That was loud. I'm not having a problem with my volume. Oh,
You add what the message is that it's going to speak, what the label is, and then you add a symbol. It walks you through each of the three and save it without all three systems. I'm sorry. So what it will speak, what it looks like, and what it is.
Okay, now that you guys have gotten your feet wet with that, I want you to have a conversation in the app with your neighbor, a back and forth conversation. So make comments, ask questions, laugh, be silly, whatever, but a back and forth conversation. Try to have like 5 turns back and forth with your neighbor to like ask and answer and.
I feel tired.
Oh, you're actually, sorry, that's extra key. And then I think
I had lunch.
maybe because you are kind of
I think the police thing is interesting. The police thing is
The more you use it, the faster you get, the faster the conversation gets, and the faster the kids get. So. Oh, good question. Yeah.
Wanted it done.
I know, I heard.
again, it's like
That should make you do that all in AAC. It's all comes to do it.
It's a difficult connection to try to find something. Finding it later. That's the difficult part. That's why it's not as many people use it, but there's just ways to work it. But a lot of
Where do you want to go? Thanks.
Remember, since you guys know how to spell, you can spell. Don't spell the whole thing, but since you know how to spell, you can spell.
Do like fill my alphabet.
And then I'll walk you through that whole process. And so then you'll flip between
And then the computer.
Martini straight to end. Let's sound it out. I don't know, it's for kids, so maybe not, but yeah.
right now you're going to switch to the other side.
Oh, you know, it just writes out, you can add to it.
Oh, so it doesn't clear, it's not like quick places are clear, it's ones that stay up there?
You can now add to it.
Thank you. See, I love it, play with it. Is there what? A search? I didn't find one, no, because it's not like a settings. But you can spell.
I don't have to.
Okay, about 30 more seconds, just keep going in your conversation.
I remember your name.
It really did.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. So come back. So how about some thoughts on that? How did it go, that back and forth conversation? A little slow, right? Why was it slow?
Didn't know where things were.
Yeah, you're looking for things. You're floundering a little bit. As you kept going, did it get a little better? Did you know where a couple of the buttons already were? So the more you use it, the faster you get. The more you have your hands on it every day, the better it is, the easier it is, the faster you get. So, I'm going to say if you're heavily using it, it's going to be a little awkward for the first week, and that's it. And it gets less awkward with every day. So don't be afraid of it. Get your hands on it. Let's, explore it with the kids, and don't be shy about that. How was it having an actual conversation with somebody with it? Like, were you able to ask and answer questions? Were you able to go back and forth? Kinda. Now, this app is a little limited, to the basics mostly. But something like Prolo Core to Go, Snap Plus Core, Touch Chat, they are very language-rich apps. And you could say pretty much anything you wanted to. So a conversation in those would be much faster and much easier. I went with Sonaflex Lite because it's free. Anybody can have access to it. So if you wanted to just model for kids using AAC, not necessarily using their AAC, but you wanted to talk in AAC while they're talking in AAC, lots of kids have different devices, so your device is different than theirs. A lot of times I'll be in the elevator here, I'll pull something up on my phone, AAC-wise, with the transition kids in the elevator, and I'll go, hello, on my phone. And they go, and then they come over and look at my phone. Then they look at their talker, and sometimes somebody will prompt them to use their talker to say hi to me. But it's really cute because their whole demeanor changes because I'm speaking their language all of a sudden. And they go, So it's really kind of fun to see. But I on purpose started carrying my phone around with me, and I have Sonaflex Lite on my phone. I also have Prolo Core to Go on my phone because I signed out of my IU account, out of my personal account into my IU account. If you've ever done that on your iPad, you can do the reverse on your phone. And if you have access to an AAC app on your classroom iPad, I'm not saying we're getting y'all Prolo Core to Go because we're not. But if you already have it on your classroom iPad, there is a way to get it also on your phone so that you can model if you need to model. Okay? And the way is using your Icloud. You log off your personal one, log into your school one on your phone, load it, and then log off your IU one and log back into your personal one. Does that make sense? So, but that's what I use when I'm in the elevator and they go, and I get full attention, and they're fully engaged. They're definitely actively engaged, as are their PCAs that are with them. It's just speaking their language. And some of them don't even know the kids have talkers until I do that and the kids pull their talker out. They don't know what that iPad is for. So the more it's out there, the more people see it, the more people use it, the easier it is to be. The easier it's going to be for them to learn to use it to expand their language. Okay. Just had an occurrence today where, again, another team was between Touch Chat and Prolo Core, and we kept going back and forth. And last week we were talking about this features-wise. It's almost a dead heat with the two of them, and features. There's a couple features that Prolo Core has that are better than Touch Chat. There's a couple that Touch Chat has that are better than Prolo Core. So we're back and forth about it, and we're leaning toward Prolo Core to Go. The school knows it, the team knows it, the parent's comfortable with it, and it looks nicer. just the symbol sets look a little newer. Now, I'm going to have a conversation with Touch Chat this week to say, hey, are you planning to update, are you planning to change? Because they're working on looking very antiquated compared to the things that are coming out now. So, and I'm sure there's something in the works already as far as them catching up, because every time somebody makes improvements, then the next person comes along and makes more improvements, and then they keep one-upping each other. So, but I would say as a whole in the school districts, 75% are using Proloquo to go. So if you are between the two, choose Proloquo to go because it helps them in the long run. They don't have to switch over later. That does not mean you have to use Proloquo to go. It doesn't mean that. But if you're between the two, matching the features, and you're leaning toward, you don't know which way to go Proloquo to go, just because it's more known out in the district. Or call us and say, what does Methacton use? What does North Penn use? What, generally speaking, what are they familiar with? Or what do you recommend? Because sometimes things change no matter what they're familiar with already. Something's better for the student.
Or we know that there's a feature that is just being released or that is one of a kind that is really being supported in life.
So we just learned about one last week. Someone had come to us and asked for LAMP Words for Life, but with Spanish. Okay. Now we know Proloquo, you can switch between the two quite easily. TouchChat has the option, but you use separate vocabularies for that. But Proloquo, you can switch right in the same. Now you can in LAMP too. Didn't know that till last week.
Now we don't know the benefits of it. We need to research it. But
but you can do it.
Yeah, we Googled it.
We totally Googled it, and we went in settings in LAMP, and it's in there. So you can switch now, same way you do in Proloquo to go, in LAMP, from Spanish to English.
Very cool. Is a district who prefers LAMP and TouchChat.
So, and there's districts that prefer LAMP as well. Anybody, I know we talked about it last week, and we're going to get, past the features thing, but what is the main limitation based on, conversation language literacy, having access to all that? What's the limitation of LAMP and Speak for Yourself? Which one are you missing there? Of conversation language literacy in those apps, which one are you missing?
The conversation, they don't have the quick phrases.
Correct. They don't have quick phrases.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I mean, it has my name is and my address is, but aside from that, you have to program in all quick phrases if you want to have access to quick phrases, quick conversation. That is the main limitation for that. The language building and the literacy, the typing are phenomenal in both of them. So, but yeah, I'm sorry, LAMP and Speak for Yourself. But yeah, so anyway, I had that discussion like right before I got here, so with the team, and that's the second one in 2 weeks as far as they're almost the same. Which one's going to allow for more growth? Which one is going to allow for, and depending on what you're looking at. Now, this little guy today was already building sentences, no problem, so he didn't need the guidance of TouchChat to lead him through, because he can already do I want, I eat, I have, and all that if we need him to. So we're leaning toward Proloquo because it has other features that he needs that are better. So, but the strength of TouchChat is that it has that predictive text, the predictive pictures. So, remembering that kids don't start learning speech with I. So, just keeping that in mind. All right. So we did that. We had a conversation using the app, logical back and forth interactions. If we had been here for another hour, your conversation in an hour would be much quicker, much better than it was at the beginning, because you're just getting used to the flow and where things are and where things are located and all that stuff. It's obviously going to be awkward at first because I just put something in front of you. If you hear someone come to you and say, he has a device but he doesn't use it, well, what do you think my first question might be? Do you model? Are you modeling for him? Are you using it? Are your hands on it? Is it incorporated into your lessons? No, he's not going to magically use it. It is not a magic button. As much as they, in contrast to what they sometimes show on TV when you put a computer in front of a kid with autism and all of a sudden, they can say everything they want to and more. That's not how it works 99.9% of the time. You have to teach them this language. So that is always my first question. Are you using it? Are your hands on it? Are the parents using it at home? Are they talking with it? Because no, he's not going to just automatically use it. So he doesn't use it. He doesn't like it. I've heard it at least 5 times this school year alone, and all 5 times, no, nobody's using it with him. Well, duh. It's not rocket science. He's going to prefer to sign if he has 5 signs because that's what he knows. If you teach him how to use this, which is kind of our job, is teaching them to learn new things, then he would likely prefer it because it offers him more opportunities for more words, even more words and a plethora of words pretty quickly. So, yeah, all right. So, now in your sessions and in your classrooms, you have to kind of think about creating more expressive opportunities. So expecting more from the kids expressively. For those nonverbal or low verbal kids, some classrooms don't expect much from them other than compliance, follow directions, touch this, show me that. On a talker, we want them, and first of all, when you use a device with a student, instead of saying show me on your talker, say tell me with your talker, use your voice or use your talker. Tell me, say it with your talker, not show me or touch it. Because this is a voice, so we want them to say it, tell me, say it on your talker, okay? But also give them more and more things to say. If they're already able to do single words, you're going to model back too. Okay? So what are those 2 words? Well, we need to kind of go through what you do during your day and give them more expressive opportunities. So think about your classroom and sessions and how can you put more expressive language from the kids into what you already do. So you want to add more expression and think about this for a second because like we said, last week or the week before, I said, we speech pathologists and teachers tend to talk a lot. Like, shut up for a second, and let them talk. So it's kind of nice when I see, and a lot of classrooms already do this, so I know some of you are already doing this, is teach the kids to have a conversation with each other. Whether it's structured or not structured, ask them to do a little survey of who likes chocolate and who likes vanilla ice cream. And they would go to each one and say, do you like chocolate or vanilla ice cream? Do you like chocolate? And then they have to record the answer. Do a little math in there. 3 people like chocolate, 2 people like vanilla. How do you know? Because they asked each other questions and answered the questions. So build some of those back and forth things in. Playtime, snack time. That one teacher said we use playtime and snack time because they're a little less structured, but they're still structured. And you can kind of set it up to be more expressive. Ask Johnny if he can play cars. Ask him, tell Jenny it's her turn. Things like that. You can foster some of that back and forth. And when you're one-on-one with a kid, it's too hard to teach that turn-taking skill. You can teach my turn, your turn. But Johnny's turn and Jenny's turn is easier to do when you're in a group. So you can pass that back and forth with them. So playing games, and even if they're educational games, they're even better, but playing games, reading books together, but not where's the apple, but tell me what this is, or what does that look like? You can say red and crunchy for an apple, or you can say touch the apple. Same page, more expressive if you say, tell me what's on this page. Oh, I know, apples are red, apples are crunchy. And, you could just do those 2 words on the talker, and it's more words than they had going in. So think about how you structure what you ask the kids to be expressive instead of just identifying things. And we do, I do it myself all the time. Where's the ducky? Where's the duck? Where's the pig? Oh, what's this? Oh, what color is he? He's yellow and he's fluffy, and you can start describing things. And what's he doing? He's waddling or walking. You can actually use the verbs that are in the course. So walking or running or hopping, and build those in when you're talking about a book and asking more open questions instead of identifying items. They're still identifying, and there's no harm in saying, where's the duck? Oh, let's talk about him for a minute, instead of just where's the duck and move on. Does that make sense? So think about a lesson, take about 2 minutes, think about a lesson or lessons that you've done, and think about the way that you could restructure your questions or what you're doing to actually have them say a little bit more than they are already saying. So I actually have them either ask a question or make a comment about something. So take 2 minutes, think of 5 phrases or activities that you can incorporate more expressive language into. And then I'll tell you about when I kind of pulled my own apart and did that. So take a couple minutes and think about your circle time or think about your story time and think about 5 new things that you can do to make it more expressive for the kids. And if you're with teammates, in the same class or anything, you can work together on this.
We're doing the balancing act.
I like the balance. It's all good. I like it.
What's that?
Sometimes you need to.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to say Pluto. You don't need to say little round maybe planet.
The teacher, because I think there's like this nice system that people, put it in my pillow and throw people in my brain.
He doesn't use it.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I've heard that 1,000 times too, so you're not alone.
I know. Okay, so.
Scared. You're more scared of it.
And it is. That's why we kind of have
Totally overwhelming.
Totally overwhelming.
Yeah.
And time for us.
Right.
Sitting down, and you have 5 kids with coffees, and they don't look the same. So, and you feel like you have to know to teach the others. You can't clown it together. Yes, you can clown it together. Totally do. And again, it's more comfort level. It's okay to touch it. It's okay to, here's what he needs to say. But here's what he needs to say. Okay, come back for a sec. So did you come up with some ideas? I took this training like early in my career called ECT. It's called Environmental Communication Teaching. And basically you script out one of your lessons, and we did snack time, and we, you had to, scripting out is write down everything that the kids are supposed to say during that lesson. If you've been in Power AAC, you've done this as well.
So you're writing down all that's said. So with the focus of expanding on the expressive part for the kids. So it's basically what I just talked to you about. But we had a little guy who, our snack time was like most. Do you want cookies or pretzels? Pretzels. What's the magic word, please? And then move on. We turned that into more of a kids serving kids. So there was a snack helper of the day that went around and said, do you want pretzels or cookies? And then they'd have to listen to what the kid said, and then, oh, you want pretzels, and give it to them, and then that kid would have to say, thank you. Jimmy, it's your turn. And then they go, Jimmy, do you want blah, blah, blah. So each kid took that turn. One kid passed the napkins out, like, here's your napkin, here's your napkin. So they were back and forth with each other. So one person passed out napkins, one person passed out whatever else, and then there was a snack helper that went around and passed it out. The device was sitting right on the tray. So, we kind of had to manipulate it and sometimes the teacher held the tray so the kid could actually say what he needed to say. Sometimes there was that juggling act, but that kid got how many more turns expressively in a lesson than he did before when I was running snack and it was just me saying everything. He got at least 10 more turns, if not 15, 20 more turns, just that one kid. And each kid got that many more turns. So it was really kind of nice to take a look at what we already do, which we think is really good. I mean, what we do is good, but it can be even better, more expressive for the kids. So the goal is more expressive language. So by the time they get to kindergarten, they have a really good hold on, talking to other people and interacting with other people. And they've practiced it in a really comfortable, safe environment, because preschool is a beautiful thing. I love preschool because, it's structured, but it's not. There's parts of it that are super structured and parts of it that are, leisure but guided. So we had to, in ECT, pull apart our whole lesson. It was like 5 full days of training. We had to go back and show our videos of this lesson every week, and everybody would critique your videos. That's really fun. It's horrible. It was awful. No, you got pretty comfortable videotaping yourself, but which is weird. But it's a great way to see what you're doing and see how you can improve things even more. But by taking that script apart and saying, how can I make this more expressive for all of my kids? First, A, talk less, you talk less. B, give them a structure that they can start expanding their language in. So some people will use surveys, some people will use just repetitive snack time activities. Some people will use tell me about your day, and it's wide open depending on how much your kids can handle. So open-ended questions are great because it offers more opportunity to expand what you're doing. Anybody come up with something really interesting or fun that they want to share that they're going to try to, like an activity or just phrases that they're going to incorporate into a standard activity? Anyone? We have lots of time left. It's not like we're going to extend it anymore. No? Nothing they want to share? Okay. So, but by the end of that year in snack time, the 2 target kids that we were working on went from 2 to 3 word phrases to full sentences. And they were using at the time a text speak, which is just 32. It's like a Go Talk, but with 32 buttons on it. And the one little guy was doing juice please when we started. And at the end of it, he was doing, I want juice and crackers please. I want more pudding please. And it would just be, it was structured still, but it was a full sentence within an activity, which was beautiful. And it transferred over to his other activities too, especially when it was I want. But he would make comments too. I like it, I don't like it, this is yucky, things like that. I would love to see that kid with an iPad now, because that was in the early 90s when we didn't have that. The TextSpeak was my all-time go-to. I love that device, but his language just exploded that year because he had a lot of opportunities because the teacher and I were going through this training together, so it was great. All right, so be thinking about that on a regular basis for expanding expressive language in your classrooms. The receptive comes right along with it, so don't worry about expanding the vocabulary identification-wise. If you're using it and they're working on it expressively, you're also working on it receptively. So you don't have to do the receptive before the expressive. All right, and model like crazy. In your lessons, get your powers hands on the devices too. Everybody's hands should be on these devices. Help them know what the kids are supposed to say. Do you have to be the expert? No, you don't. But we want you to start encouraging. Tammy, help him say, I want to go. Show him how to say that. Here's how you do it. Here's where it is on the device. One thing, one lesson, that's better than what you had before, okay? So get those powers hands on it. Get those powers actively involved in your lessons. So if they're sitting on a chair behind the kid on the floor, get them on the floor with the kid. I've seen it both ways. I've seen powers actively engaged with the kid on their lap or next to them, really helping facilitate that. And then I've seen the ones that sit far off and will help if there's a behavior issue. We want everybody's hands in there, on it, and explain to them what you're trying to do as far as expanding their expressive language, helping them talk more, but they're talking using their talker. And that's what it's for. Okay? Questions about that?
Trish? What about having them, we should be doing hand over hand or no?
Model, if they need some support, it's fine, but give them time to respond.
Like resisting and wanting to...
Then you just model. And yeah, don't make this anything negative. It's all positive. It's all, if they're not touching it or they're touching the wrong thing, oh, I saw you went for this. That's what we were saying. I want this. And, you can just kind of twist it around. But if they're resistant to that, then don't hand over hand them. Okay? Some kids are more than receptive to it if they need the assistance, but some aren't. Some kids will take your hand. Now make my hand do it. And they'll do you instead of you pulling them. Mm-hmm. So it's one way to do it, but I've seen kids be receptive to that. So any other thoughts on that? Any other ideas that work for you? Go ahead.
Actually, this is kind of a question with regard to the hand over hand.
Mm-hmm.
One of my students can do things, but she's very strong learned helplessness, where before she'll open her drink, she wants you to hand it to her.
Of course.
Obviously in this, I suspect she's going to want us to do that hand over hand. Tips for backing off on that without having a problem.
Have you already started hand over hand? Then don't.
Just don't do it at all?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Just model. Just model, let her sit back and watch. And then if you go to her and it's her turn, wait her out. And move on. Oh, well, I think blah, 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 and move on. She'll be sad, but move on, because she's, waiting for you to prompt her. You have to get away from that prompt. Yeah, but we definitely don't want to do hand over hand with her then. No. There's a little guy that I work with now, and he's pretty high level, but he sometimes when he fatigues, he wants to take an adult's hand, but there was a time when he wasn't even fatigued and he just wanted to hold your hand to do this. Yeah, so they kind of pulled back from any assistance unless he was tired, and you can kind of tell when he's overtired. He has CP, and sometimes the fatigue would get to him. So, but he's not using that at all anymore, so that's kind of great. I have some resources, but I kind of wanted to talk about a few things first. So these are just my notes, but sorry for that. If you practice ahead of time, I know time is time is precious. You don't have extra time, so I get that. So a lot of times you don't get to practice doing the lesson before you get into the lesson. It's okay if it's awkward, but it's not okay to not do it because it's awkward. Okay? Be awkward. It's not awkward forever. And the more you do it, the less awkward it is. So if you haven't had time to practice it ahead of time, get a couple words on there while you're doing it, but don't ignore the device. Don't ignore the talker. Have it in there. Have them say one thing with it. You say one thing with it. That's a step toward less awkward. But if you can go over it ahead of time, do. So it gives you some familiarity of where it is. If you have access to the kid's device or the same app that they're using, do take a look at it before so you kind of have an idea of where things are. But if you don't, it's okay to dive in and not have an awareness ahead of time. They don't have it, so you can learn it together. It's okay. Same with paras. If you don't know, let's find out. Let's use the search feature. Let's figure it out. So don't just abandon because it's hard, because it's not going to be hard forever if you dive in now. So a lot of what we're talking about is aided language. You're aiding the language process. You're modeling, you're showing, you're demonstrating, you're using it too. So use it for yourself too. If you're going to have a pretzel, say, I like pretzels and I'm going to eat a pretzel. I love pretzels. I like it. And then offer something to the kid so that you're using it to talk as well. Okay? And I'm going to show you a video on aided language. So setting up the apps on your classroom iPads, if you have access to it to any of the apps on your classroom iPads, you should have backups of your kids. If you've spent a lot of time backing things up, not backing things up, if you've customized apps for kids, make sure you've backed it up. How do you find out how to back up? Google it. Prolo to go backup video. Find out how to do it. Make sure you have backups. You only have to learn that the hard way one time in your life. I had a team, I will tell you this one because I was crushed to hear it. An active user of Prolo to go, really good, making sentences. He was in middle school at this time, just going to town on his device. Frantic phone call from the teacher. His app is gone. He deleted his app. They hadn't restricted deleting of the apps, which we tend to restrict so that they can't do that, but he deleted the app. They had to reload it. Everything's gone. Everything's gone. This was September. Last June, I met with teacher, mom, speech therapist, and said, all three of you back this up. And I sat with them and had them do a backup. No, this had to be May. But the previous June, I sat with all three of them. We all went through the backup process. There were 3 backups. They lived somewhere, right? We made sure we had 3 backups. They knew how to do it. Almost a year later, frantic phone call, it's gone. I said, who has the backups? Who's been backing it up? Because I expect all 3 of them to do it so that it lives somewhere, so I know it is happening. 0. Everybody said, Mom said, I'm afraid to do it. My son doesn't know how to do it. I'm going, I sat with you and did it. We did it. You did it fine. I told you not to be afraid of it. Touch it. We have a backup. So, teacher, speech therapist said she was going to do it. Speech therapist said teacher was going to do it. Nobody did it. So, the teacher spent 6 hours that school day. They got him a sub, and he tried to put everything back in. Everything up till the kid was 13 years old. They didn't even get halfway, and he spent the entire school day, and was really good at editing, the entire school day customizing this device, and it wasn't close to what the kid had before. Nobody thought to say, hey, Julie, can I have the backup from last year, so we're at least at last year's point, and can move forward from there. It would have taken 2 minutes tops for me to give them that, for them to get it on the device and move from there. It's so easy if you have a backup. It literally takes a minute 30 seconds to do it, to back it up and to transfer it back on. It's quick. So don't spend days trying to get it back to where it was when you can do it in a minute and a half. So, and it literally takes a minute and a half to back it up. So now, like I told you, some of the apps will back themselves up. So you just have to make sure it's set up to do that. But you only learn it the hard way one time, and then you make sure you have backups from then on. So please don't learn it the hard way. Learn from my mistake and that team's mistake, and make sure you have backups of your kids, especially the ones, I mean, customize. You always customize for kids, so there should be a backup. The backup would be, even if you've only customized adding people's pictures in. You want to do that again? No, you don't have to, because it'll take, 2 seconds to get it back in there. Okay, minute and a half. So backups, backups, backups. Regular backups. And if it's scheduled to do it on its own, great. Even better, because then you don't have to worry about it. Last year, at least 3 times during the year, we used those backups to restore from something that got lost or broken. So it does happen frequently enough that, somebody says, do you have a backup? I back up all the special ed iPads in Souderton. So do the SLPs, but I back them up. Also, they hire me to do that. They're like, just take care of it for us. Okay. But the SLPs do it too. And we've used those last year 3 times they needed to use the backup that I had. So we have a system in place, have a system in place.
And every time something happens to a device, one of you are working with those students, you need that backup. I mean, if you don't have that backup, you're building from scratch. So
don't redo your work. Nobody's got time for that. Nobody has time for that. So, yeah, I know time is of the premium. So, it's precious, and we don't have any extra. So you're scheduled super tight. So if you're doing something on the fly, it's fine. Just get your hands, you said, I didn't even look at this. Well, look at it now. Take a minute, look at it now, and don't make your lesson so jam-packed that you have to fit in this whole art activity that takes a half hour in half hour's time. Do something that takes 15 minutes or 20 minutes and have that flexibility to work on the expressive language within the activity. Okay. So for SLPs, there are a couple free apps that are available to you that you can add by going to these certain places. So Snap Plus Core first, it's actually from Toby Dynavox. You have the link in there. If you go to it, it tells you how to get it for free. It's pretty great to have access to that. We don't have access to free Proloquo to Go. They just don't offer it. Maybe I'll talk to them about that this week, for SLPs at least. Sorry, teachers, I'm just saying SLPs, but they, that way they can go through Ahea, like the national organization, and kind of work it through that way. If you're an Ahea member, you can get the free apps. I'm forgetting another one. There is another one. I'm forgetting it too. Anybody know what it is, Joanne? Any idea what another free one is that for SLPs? There's another one. No, they can't. Nope. Snap Plus Core. We'll get back to you. The next training, Tammy's here for it. I'm not here for the next one, but we're going to Closing the Gap this week, which is the big conference. If we hear of other ones, we'll let you know on the 5th. Okay, so I'm going to show you that video, but free apps for SLPs. Yeah. Oh, I just copied and pasted that. Okay, yes, we'll let you know what the other one is. I know there's another one, so we'll let you know what that is. There's at least one, maybe 2. Yeah. So let me show you that video on aided language, because I wrote that it's really good, and I don't remember off the top of my head what it is. But I definitely want to take a look, because...
Autism. This video will explain what strategy used to support language. Learning to communicate using picture systems can be challenging for anyone who is nonverbal, minimally verbal, or is an emerging communicator. It can be especially difficult if the student has autism. This video will explain one strategy used to support language development and teach children to communicate with their picture-based augmentative communication systems. This strategy is called aided language. Aided language is also known as aided language stimulation, aided language input, aided language immersion, or augmented language. It was created by Elder, Gossens, and Crane, and is based on the idea that by watching others use pictures during motivating activities, children begin to learn that the picture symbols can be used as communication tools. To practice aided language, we model or provide examples to the child of how to communicate using pictures. The concept is simple. You have to speak with pictures if you want them to speak in pictures. If you are teaching them French, You would speak to them in French. They have to be exposed to people speaking with pictures in order to learn how to speak with pictures like you would do in any language immersion program. This is how it would look like. You will pair the key word with his pictures as you talk. For example, if you want to tell the child time to eat your crackers, you would point to crackers. As you get better at speaking with pictures, you will start using more keywords. For example, you might say, time to eat your crackers. In addition to modeling directives, you also need to comment on what the child is hearing, seeing, and doing with body language. For example, if you see that the child is resting his head on the table and rubbing his eyes, you can say, I think you're tired. Aided language can be used with low-tech communication systems or high-tech communication systems. In this next video, you're going to see a child with his EA and his EA providing support with a high-tech communication device that she carries.
In the break. Okay, I know. Not yet. I need you to have something to eat. Good job.
You should use aided language to model communication for many purposes, such as making comments. Look, I'll go in. Asking questions. Where did you go? Sharing information. She has new shoes. And greetings. Hi, how are you? Remember, we are using pictures to provide examples so that the child learns to use pictures to communicate back to us. So we need to talk about things that the child finds interesting, motivating, and useful. Use short, simple language, speak slowly, and pause at times during the conversational flow. Use lots of repetition as you describe ongoing events. Keep in mind that this will initially slow down your communication, but that's okay because you're also learning, and this will help you to understand how hard it is to use picture-based augmentative communication systems. It is just like learning a new language. To maximize the child's learning, you should aim to use pictures to communicate with the child at least 20 times per hour. This might sound like too much on top of everything else you have to do, but think about how verbal kids learn to talk. By the time they are 18 months old, they have been exposed to approximately 4,400 hours of language. That is, 8 hours a day of hearing spoken language for 18 months. So, if a nonverbal child is exposed to picture-based communication for only 10 minutes per day, then it would take them 84 years to reach the same level of language exposure as the 18-month-old verbal child. Our goal is that the child will eventually start pointing at the pictures to tell you things, praise them, and continue using aided language to have a conversation with them. Aided language should be used in a turn-taking manner, and focus should be placed on having an enjoyable, shared interaction together.
So she was talking about, making things interesting for the kids and letting them communicate about interesting things. Keep in mind, they also want to communicate about funny things and about, rejecting things. Give them opportunity to say, no, I don't want to, I don't like it. If it's something they don't have to do, say, oh, you don't want to do it, that's fine. But if it's something they do have to do, you say, oh, I know you don't want to, but it's time to. Just like any parent, any teacher would. Okay, still, but give them that language. Don't want to, don't like, give me space. There's things like that. But they need to find the power in the communication too, and they can have the power in communication without using their behavior to do it. Without shoving somebody aside or shoving you aside and saying I don't like it, or throwing something to say don't like it. Give them the words to say it. Well, I see that you don't like it. So there was something else. So I wanted to review a little bit. So that's everything about implementation. Any questions about what this looks like or how to go about this or anything you're not totally comfortable with, theoretically? Okay, so it just takes some practice and diving in and really thinking about your lessons and making them more expressive. Like, how can we change it around so the kids say more things? And then you're modeling keywords during those things, okay? If you have kids using devices, get your hands on those devices, get your staff to get their hands on the devices, and model for your staff as well. Have him say this, 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 and show them. And yes, you're modeling for them, but you also have them say, now you can even ask, pull the aides in with snack and have them have snack too, and ask them using the device, do they want pretzels or cookies, so that they can get their hands on it too in a more comfortable way. Yeah, just dive in, get your hands, in it, using it, and then if you have questions, reach out and ask. Or you're like, this is too awkward, am I doing something wrong? It's likely you're not doing anything wrong and you just need more practice with it, that's all. There's always videos to customize and back up, so you can Google it, LAMP Words for Life customizing video, or instructions on how to do it. You can Google any of the apps. If you Google a question in question marks, only the people that have asked that exact question, those answers will come back to you. It is likely somebody has asked the same question you're asking. This goes with Google in general. So I always use the example of when I cleaned out my dishwasher. You know how they get gunky sometimes, and I didn't know how to clean it out. So I Googled how to clean out a dishwasher, a Maytag dishwasher. And I got directions. Somebody had already asked that question, and here's the directions on how to do it. But I did it in quotes. That way I didn't get how to clean out a Hot Point or a KitchenAid dishwasher. It was my dishwasher. So anything you put in quotes, it's only going to come back with that whole phrase. So, all right, I did want to go back to the first week when we talked about what set paperwork looks like, how we expect you to have your set meetings by the end of October. But what does that look like when you have a set meeting? Basically, when I hold set meetings, you gather the team. The team is parents, you, so teacher, SLP, parent, at the very least. Invite your supervisor. Very seldom will they come, but sometimes they'll come. In the school district, we always invite the supervisor because they're the money people providing the device for the kids. So they need to be kept in the loop, as far as what the trial is. These are expensive pools, relatively speaking, so they're going to be the ones that have to support the decision to purchase something. So it's not that you ask them, they need to be on the decision-making process as far as know why you came up to the data you came up to and why this is appropriate for this child. So they need to be included in this. Whether they're physically at the meeting or not, they need to receive the paperwork and know the process. So parents absolutely need to be there. You should never have a meeting with just the SLP and the parent if you can avoid it, because it's a team decision-making process. So at least teacher, SLP, parent. And anybody else, if the PCA can be there, awesome, even better, because they want, you want their input. How is the child communicating now? How do we, what are we looking for him to be able to do? The more they hear that live, the better, because otherwise they get it secondhand, If they can actually be in that meeting, I know they can't always, but sometimes in EI we've had lunch meetings and everybody's there and you have your lunch and you have your meeting. You can do that. And it works out kind of nicely if you're actually sitting there having your lunch while you're meeting. You can be very productive that way. You don't have to. You can take your lunch and then do it another time. But when I hold a set meeting, gather everybody together, whoever the team leader is or the best note taker, if let's just say Stacy's going to run the meeting, but somebody else is going to take the notes, you can do that. Somebody's going to fill out the form while she's doing all the talking. That's fine. I tend to do both things. It's hard to talk and type at the same time. It can be done, but do take your time and do it, because the more you leave undone in the meeting has to be done later. And let me tell you, I have a pile of 6 things waiting for me, 6 set meetings that I have to finish up the paperwork for. So if you can type it all during the meeting, awesome. So you're typing up the framework as you're talking about. So the first thing is the identification page is just demographics. So you don't have to worry so much about that. You can go in with that filled out, or you can do it right after the meeting, with everybody's. I pass around a sign-in sheet. It's just something I made up just to pass around and have everybody's email address in one spot so I can copy it onto the identification page. You can do that too. Just pass around name, email, role. So while that's being passed around, I'm filling out the framework and the action plan. And I have both of those pulled up on my computer, already set to go for the kid. So I set those up the night before with his name, the date, the basics. I don't fill out any of it till we're sitting in the meeting because it's a team approach. In some districts, there's one district in particular, everybody comes with the whole set framework filled out already. The OT gives me one, the teacher gives me one, the SLP gives me one. So I have 3 fully filled out frameworks that I'm supposed to then compile all in one. Like, I don't want 6 pages of a framework. Nobody wants 6 pages of a framework. It is list, bullet, simple points, get the idea down that we're doing, and then to move us into an action plan. Don't write narratives. No one will read it, ever, right? We want this to be a working document, and one that can help you determine where the student's been and where they need to go. Okay? So under the student section, diagnosis, age, how they communicate now, strengths, needs, anything about the student themselves that stands out. Motivators, sometimes that's really helpful to have there. Environments, where are they during the day? Don't just write preschool, because they're not only in preschool. It's preschool, it's daycare sometimes, it's home, it's grandma's house. So that's why the parents there too, because as soon as they leave you, where are they during the day? It doesn't have to be so detailed. Sometimes in school I'll write each class, like it depends on what I'm there for. But I just wrote like special education classroom, gen ed classroom, specials, when they're in school, cafeteria, playground, whatever. Just there, because these are the environments you're looking at where they're communicating. That's why the environments column is important, because they're not only communicating in preschool, so we don't have to only plan for communication in preschool, we need to plan for all of these areas. If they go to church or synagogue on the weekend, you want that in there, because some of them are in Sunday school trying to communicate with Sunday school teachers. They're still communicating, or not. They may not be. And parents aren't typically with them in Sunday school most of the time. So maybe in preschool they might be, but most of the time they're not. They take them to Sunday school and they go to church. So, it's one of those situations where you want to kind of plan for that if they need support there. So you did the student, you did the environments, again, a list of their environments, tasks they need to do. What communicatively are we looking for them to do? Make requests, comment, ask and answer questions, protest and reject. It's language functions that we're really looking at. What do we want them to be able to do? Beyond requesting. Yes, requesting and making wants and needs known is a big thing, but go beyond that too. And what else are we doing? Gaining attention is a biggie. Calling people by name. It's a bullet list of what tasks do we want. A lot of times I have about 5-ish things in that list. 5 communicative functions in there, maybe, that we're going to be looking for. Okay, so student, environment, tasks, the tools they're already using, and then the tools you want to explore. So what tools are they using already to speak? Sign language, verbal speech, and you can comment on the intelligibility factor there. Pointing, gestures, dragging people. They use pictures in the classroom. They use an iPad at home for YouTube. If the mom says they use an iPad at home, I always say, what are they doing with it? And I write down what they do with it. What information does that give you? If they're just going on YouTube or whatever.
Well, it tells you how they can navigate the iPad.
Yeah.
Can they swipe? Can they find the right app? Can they, heck, if they're going on YouTube, how are they finding the video they want? Is it just what's already been seen? Or are they somehow searching for it?
It gives you a lot of information. So it's interesting that you say that, because I was in a meeting last week where the teacher was saying, well, we work from a field of 4 pictures usually, and that was for picture identification. So that was for an academic test. But 4 pictures is pretty much all she can handle, and her dad goes, hold on a second. She takes my phone, his phone, so we were talking full iPad. She takes my phone, scrolls through till she finds YouTube, goes to YouTube, goes here, goes there, does this, does that, and she can rewind and fast forward using the little slider. And the teacher's like, huh. So in that case, we would go with smaller pictures, but still a few number on a page. We'd still hide some, but we'd go with smaller pictures because she can handle that little fine motor issue, and she's seeing it enough to discriminate. It's hard to find that little button on the slider, so, So she had some skills there, which is also why it's a team approach. So what else they're using? They're using a timer for something, or just kind of whatever tools they're using. You're using a smartboard in your classroom, and she's able to drag. It's kind of important to know that.
One of the important things is if they're having a device at home, what type of case and what color case. Really important, because if you are going to be generating a device, if they're in a blue case, I'm going to give out another blue case.
For a communication device, if there's a talker at home and a talker at school.
Right. So that's important for us to know so that we can have a different colored case if you go speech generating device.
And if they have a leisure iPad at home, you want the case to be different for the talker. Right. Because then they can differentiate.
Discriminate when we come to that.
Are they drippy? We need to know that. Our kids are drippy, there's a lot of moisture going on, of all kinds of moisture. So, do we need a screen protector on it? Do we need a case with a screen protector? We want that device to be with them at all times. How can they carry it? Handle, strap. Okay, handle, strap. Does it need a stand? Most of the time, it doesn't need a stand, but some people really like that kid case with the stand. Can you hold that up? The one with the bendy handle that stands up? Yeah, Tammy has one in the back. Yeah. So that's kind of nice to have too. It takes up less real estate on the desk if you have it up. So all those features we want to talk about, and then what are we going to explore? Well, if they already have an iPad with Proloquo to go, and this is a reset meeting, your action plan is going to be about implementation. All right, she already uses it independently during snack, and when she's mad, she'll say, don't want. Where else are we going to use it? That's what this next action plan is for. Okay, now we're going to expand into blah, 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 blah. Or we're going to add new language functions in there, gaining attention. Now she's going to call somebody's name. Now she's going to deliver a message to another teacher. This is so-and-so, blah, 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 just to get some more language functions in there. And make sure in your action plans you're putting, so from to explore, you're just going to say continue with iPad with Proloquo to go, start transition plan with the district if they're going to be 5. I'll have Tammy probably talk about that next week with the IEP stuff. We're going to do devices, IEP stuff, and a wrap up like general stuff. So come with questions if you have them. Not next week, 2 weeks from now. And then make sure that you're planning for backups and things like that. But implementation, moving forward, where are we going? So initially it's trying different apps, different devices. Once they have the device, you still do the action plans, and you're just kind of upping the ante on what they're doing linguistically with it. Okay? So that's the framework, and from the to explore column, you develop your action plan. So you're typing up your action plan during this meeting, even if all you type is keywords in the action plan until later and you fill it all in, have some keywords there. So the keywords are going to be, if they're in the trial process, borrow an iPad with Proloquo to go, and what kind of case and what kind of strap. Who is going to do that and by when? Okay, whose job is that and by when? View the videos, the training videos, or train or show mom or whatever, however the team's getting trained on it. By who? Entire team. By when? What date you're going to do that. So training, then customizing the app to add pictures and add favorites in there. So add that personal core and some fringe if you need to. And who's going to do that and by when? Okay. And then you're going to model. No matter what you're doing, I always write it, and I write it that way. How many people have seen my model? It says model. Use of the device for the first month. Use of the new vocabulary for the first month. And then the next item is, after the first month of modeling, back off to prompts and collect data. Okay, and the data is going to be, observe them using what language functions and at what level of independence. And then general comments about device use and observations. And then the last thing is, check in with the team and schedule the follow-up meeting. So on your action plan at the bottom right, it says next meeting date. If you can pick that next meeting date, then do it. Get it on the calendar. You can always change it later. So, we're going to start all these things by October 15th, and then we're going to meet back again after we've collected the data. The data collection is going to start November 15th because you're modeling for a month. And then we'll we'll collect data for a month, and then we'll meet back and see how things are going and update the action plan. When you've decided on the device, those reset meetings can be a little spaced a little farther apart. Now we all know what we're doing. We're all on the same page. 3 months, 4 months, you can make it, one more time before the end of the school year or before the summer to plan for the summer and into the fall is a good thing to do. What's the plan for it through the summer and into the fall? But so you have that meeting, you're typing everything up. You really want to have a grasp of what your action plan is when you leave. Okay? The action plan is the big, important part of this. And what everybody's job is. Once you finish typing that up, which should be within that week, send it out to everybody on the team. So everybody, like speech therapists, everybody, especially everybody who has a job on the action plan. So you're emailing it out to everybody as an attachment, or 3 attachments, or 4 if you have a data sheet attached. But it's the identification page, framework, action plan, and data sheets if you have them to everybody. And then say if you have any questions, reply all, and we can kind of talk email-wise. You guys are fortunate that you typically get to see parents, fortunate or unfortunate, but you get parent contact. In school they don't have as much, so a lot of it's done over email. And then they come in if it's really bad. If they need specific training, of course. But so you see the parents. Definitely, we used to handwrite it and hand it to the parents, but it's better if it's electronic because then they can fire off an email. If something happened at 11, you don't have to answer at 11, but if they are up at 11 and have a question, they can ask it, and then you can answer. Somebody from the team can answer. Okay, it's a nice working flow if you have everybody on the same little email page and can send it out. And it's worked out really nicely with troubleshooting. It's avoided by doing it that way. In my past experience, by not doing it that way, we would get to that follow-up meeting, and there'd be an item on the action plan that, say, the parents were supposed to do or somebody was supposed to do, like a backup, and it wasn't done. Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't know how. What do you mean you didn't know how? You could Google it or ask. So if they have any questions or concerns throughout this whole process, make sure they know to email the whole group, and you can troubleshoot. It's quite easy to troubleshoot now with the technology that we have. So encourage that open communication. And again, it doesn't have to be this big, long, detailed, overburdening paperwork. You just do need to have a plan. It helps you put a plan in place, and it helps you keep everybody on the same page as far as the plan. Give everybody a job. Even the PCAs, when you say entire team, they're included in that. They're going to help collect the data. They're going to help model the device for the student. So make sure they're in on this also, because they're important. Did I tell you about training the paras in one of the districts? Did I say anything about that? One district had me come and train all their paras, for an in-service day about AAC and how to use it. And I had them all load SonarFlex Lite, and I showed them how to program and customize. And we talked about it in Proloquo to Go and some of the whatever apps they had. We practiced customizing, showed them about modeling. A lot of them don't even really get it, but they were all together, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it was kind of empowering to say, we want your hands on this device. We want you to help his language grow. We want you to add things if something comes up. If you're at the pig farm and there's a baby pig there and the teacher's over there who knows how to add, I want you to add that. Take a picture of it and add that so he can tell mom about it when he gets home. There's a baby pig. It was so cute. And that can be just a button that says, I saw a baby pig. It was so cute. It's okay to have a news message. So empowering them to do that, it is empowering. So a couple of the teachers actually, 2 emailed and 1 called the next day and said, I don't know what you said, but thanks, because there's devices in everybody's hands, and they have it on their phones and they're modeling for the kids. It was really sweet to hear, because I've been in this district for a long time, and they were doing fine. Some of the aides were really great. But those aides that were really great ramped it up even more. And they made sure everybody had it, and they were modeling, and they were, adding things and changing things, and it was good. It was really good. So empower your assistants and, use them. Can you help me do this? Show me how to do that. I want to show you how to do this. And so he gets to say more words throughout the day. So he can. And, they don't really know. You're kind of teaching them too. So what their role is in all of this. So any questions about that? Kim?
Not that.
Okay, about anything.
Do you have any examples that you could share with us
of set?
Set taking
Yep.
that you've done in the past? And
Absolutely. So we are putting that together. It's just been a nutso couple weeks, but yes, I will post some. So, sure, I can do it through Google Drive in the meantime, but I think what I'll do is probably, we're still going to update our website and have a preschool side and a school age side so that you guys have access to. I am going to revamp that paperwork so it says not district, student district, but it says IU representative and, change all the wording so it's not for districts, it's for you guys. But in addition to that, I will have some preschool samples and some augmented communication samples based on preschool. So yes, I'll pull some of the ones that we've had that are good ones. Not all of them are good, me too. So I'll pull some of the better ones and black out the names so that you can kind of see what it looks like. Yeah, it's, but again, as long as you have a good plan, everybody knows the plan and you're carrying the plan through, that's the goal. So don't stress about, oh my God, I have to have a set meeting, I have to do all this work. You do need to have a meeting to talk about the communication plan. There's a couple of districts in other counties. We meet with the SLP or the AT people from the state a couple times a year. And somebody said one of the counties has communication planning meetings for all of the kids every year at the beginning of the year. It's like teacher conferences, like it's parent-teacher conferences, but it's the SLP, the teacher, and the parent. Not just set meetings, but anybody who has speech and language, they have communication planning meetings. Here's what we're doing, here's what we're working on, here's what you do parent, here's what you do teacher, and this is, everybody's on the same page. Like, that's phenomenal, that's great. And they just have it like, they get a sub for the teacher, and they do back-to-back meetings all day long, just like parent-teacher conferences, and they do communication planning meetings. Tried to get it to go here, didn't fly, so, but we do have meetings, and you can schedule individual meetings with the parents. So I highly recommend any of your low verbal kids, get these meetings going, even if you're using picture-based supports. Just to say, this is what we're doing, here's what you need to do at home, or here's what we'll teach you how to do for home. And just work as a team, building language skills. And if a parent says, no, we're going to stick with sign language, you do it at school, you can start it at school. And then send video home to show what they're doing. You can, make them a superstar and say, yeah, but look what he can do with pictures too. And say, yes, we're using sign, we're still supporting a sign, and look what else he can do. So, and then they likely come on board pretty quickly with the expansion of the language. So, any other questions?
At what point do you say, like, okay, this is not working, what you chose?
If you've modeled, if everybody's, all in, and it just doesn't feel right, you come to us and say, do we tweak it or do we change? If you want to ask us, but you tweak it or you change it. Yeah, but you want to have solid modeling time. If they have a very slow acquisition rate, you model for 2 months instead of 1. You just model a little bit longer if it takes them longer to pick up. But if they're not gaining, it's rare, but if that happens, you need to tweak something. Something's not right. But it's only if you have definitely modeled for them, definitely immersed them in it, and they're just not getting it, then something needs to be tweaked.
And
That's not usually
how many people
altogether.
are actually modeling it, because a lot of times we find out that it's you as the teacher, you as the speech therapist.
Only.
It's not carried over elsewhere.
Yeah, and if it's not carried over, they're not going to grow. So. But yeah, you actually have to, but if you've done all that, there are those kids, and then you just need to tweak it. Do you back off to something a little more concrete? Or do you, there are other solutions for that.
So, this is just something that's been percolating in my head. I know with the PEX program, you're doing it truly with fidelity. That was a lot harder to figure out how to phrase it. They have to come to you, and they have to track your attention in order to have that initial expression. With a lot of these devices that will talk, and that you can turn that volume way up.
Yep.
They can talk really loud from the other side of the room. Do we have to teach teachers and the parents and everybody to not react unless they come get your attention?
No, they don't have to come get you. PECs, they have to come get you because they have to give you something.
Right.
No, if they can call your attention from across the room.
Right, but we're just, if I'm sitting at this table and say, I want juice, do we need to teach them that get attention part?
So, yes.
And only react to get attention, and how hard is that to teach?
And how do you teach them? Either you come in and say, go ask Mrs. So-and-so for juice. We're going to call her. So you need that third prompter. Just like in PECS, you need that third prompter to come in and call your attention.
Okay.
So, what do the kids call you?
Miss Stacia.
Okay, so Miss Stacia. So Para comes over and says, call Miss Stacia, get her attention. Miss Stacia, Miss Stacia, Miss Stacia. And you say, what? Then. But that's the function that they're missing. So typical kids either come get you or they call your name. Mom, 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 what? You know, what? So teacher, 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 they need to gain your attention. If it's not acceptable or appropriate to do that in your classroom, to call across the room, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. In preschool, sometimes it's okay. If you're in playtime, they can just go, Miss Stacia, you know, and you say, what? But if it's not appropriate during some other time, teach them the way it is appropriate to come get you. Or to come get you or to come closer and whisper. You know, like something like that. But yeah, that's the function they're missing. If they're just sitting there going, one juice, one juice, one juice, in the middle of not intending that for anybody, someone will swoop in and teach my gain attention.
It's quite obvious when you're in a classroom when a student has not been taught that.
Yeah, right.
Because I go into many classrooms, and so does Julie, that you can see when students have not been taught that.
Yeah.
One juice, one juice, one juice.
Right. Or they're just hitting.
Like, who are you talking to?
Their device, and when you walk up to them and you have a conversation with them, and they look at you, and then they start having a conversation back and forth, you realize that they need to be taught that skill. And then you have the conversation. You have that consultation time with the teacher and the paras. But yeah, you can tell when students have not been taught that skill.
But and if you haven't talked to the para about that already, you can just swoop in to that student and say, oh, I think you want something. Ask Miss So-and-so for it. Let's get her attention. So you can be the one to facilitate the calling of attention. Okay. So, and then by modeling that, maybe you can say, you know, Trish, can you have them call me? You know, go have them call me. You know, so to gain attention that way. But it's really the gaining attention that he wasn't doing.
Right.
Yeah, so you can teach them the way you want him to do that. But with picture exchange, they physically have to come give it to you. When you're using any verbal kid, they don't have to come to you. Right? So the way that they gain attention is the way you want our guys to gain attention, however they do that. However is acceptable in your classroom to do that. I see this 3 o'clock.
The links for this, where does that live? Because I didn't write it down and I couldn't.
I'll put it back up so you can, they live at the link right now, so we can summarize, but.
Well, I did have a form that I found very useful with gathering the vocabulary that needs to go onto someone's device.
Oh.
That I could
That, sure, or share, yeah, do that. Do that, and we'll share it. Oh, that'd be great. That would be great.
That I found very useful.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Oh, please do. That'd be great.
I sent the link to share out.
Perfect. Thank you. I love people sharing things. The box of materials is, it's a little emptier, so there's materials there. If you want them, take them, or they're going in the trash. So, and they're going in the trash today. Nobody takes them, so, because they've been around for a while. If you have questions, let us know. You don't meet with us next Friday. 2 Fridays from now is the 5th, and Tammy will be here for that. And that's the wrap-up. And then after that, we will have virtual office hours available for you. So
make sure you all sign in on the